Mini-episode 1106 of the FDH Lounge is brought to you by Sportsology, delivering unconventional columns and webcasts about sports, TV, music, movies, and more. Follow them on the web at sportsology.com.
The FDH Lounge. You'll want to schedule your life around it.
A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the FDH Lounge. Rick Morris and Jake Digman here today, belatedly. We'll get to that in a second. Breaking it down for you, FDH Lounge mini-episode number 1106. It is the post-WrestleMania week wrap-up that we are going through. Jake has been kind enough to truck it up to Casa de Riccio, as it were, and after some horrific technical malfunctions here, my man has been a great sport, as per always, while we worked through them. They are done. We are now recording. It is my immense pleasure to be recording with my good friend, my fellow FDH Lounge dignitary, as per always. Jake, welcome to the Casa, I believe for the first time ever, and so glad to be recording the WrestleMania 35 post-week wrap-up with you.
Well, thank you for having me in La El Casa de Riccio, or whatever you called it, and I just learned all about the magical powers of drivers on a computer and how important they are, and I have no idea what just happened, but
Absolutely.
It works.
And I just paid what's probably some scam service to update all my drivers, which was a necessity. A beautiful new mic, I must say, a Christmas present from my brother, for which I was prepared to unsarcastically say, thanks, Mike, but now it's going to be tinged with a little bit of sarcasm for what we just went through, but a beautiful new mic setup. And again, I wanted to break it out to have good sound with you. It's been a while since I actually recorded with anybody, as opposed to on the phone, so glad to have this mic set up here with you, and to be able to capture what I know was a very memorable week in your life, and again, very happy as I was seeing it unfold all on Facebook here. I know how much it meant to you, going out there and filming a lot of the indie shows that were going on around WrestleMania week. It's interesting to me because I'm just going to put my thesis for the week out there, is that sort of WrestleMania week is almost sort of the equivalent of WrestleMania itself. It's just so overstuffed with anything and everything going on. I mean, we could sit here, we could do a 24-hour broadcast.
Oh, we did that already.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was a part of that.
Yeah.
We set that up.
In 06?
No, I did that in over the weekend.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a 24-hour, but it was, I believe, a 12-hour broadcast on the Fight app.
Okay.
It was kind of it was hosted by, it's available right now, by the way, on the Fight TV app. You can download it if you want to watch this. It's there. It's Cyrus Fees, Matt Stryker, and SoCal Val, and plenty of guests were coming in and out of the studio that we had created, and it was 12-hour broadcast, and it was like Sports Center for wrestling fans. It's kind of surreal. I did a count. There were, do you know how many pro wrestling shows were going on in a 6-day span in New York City / New Jersey this past week?
It was a couple dozen, wasn't it?
55.
55, man.
That's if you count everything. So if you count so on that we're counting obviously all of the WWE shows.
Sure.
And included in there.
But that's two.
That is actually I counted Hall of Fame too for that.
All right,
so
3.
So you had we'll just go backwards.
Raw
You
and
had SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown,
5.
Raw. There was WrestleMania, obviously, NXT, Hall of Fame, and then they had 3 sessions at Access that were specific things that were NXT alumni versus NXT things that people out there that are strictly under the WWE umbrella.
That's going to be great stuff. Luke Harper returned.
Yeah, Luke Harper returned on that, and but for people who are strictly under the WWE umbrella, they had all that stuff, and then there was everything else that was going on, which was wow, what a ride.
Well, and your stuff, I think, wasn't all of it on the Fight app, or most of it, if you want to go find it?
Everything that I took part in, it's all on the Fight app.
Okay.
So
it's just amazing to me the slice of all of this that you were able to capture. And again, WrestleMania week and WrestleMania both being, the proverbial 10 pounds in a 5-pound sack as far as everything that's loaded into it, and that you can go through a week. And of course, again, it's a great week for wrestler paydays. They're able to catch a lot of the different job opportunities all there in one spot.
A lot of job opportunities that weekend. A lot of job opportunities.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Jobbing right and left.
Yeah, I could have been doing the job on multiple shows.
So many shows. Some people did.
I don't know how many jobs this guy did in that sense, but I know you said that at 3 separate shows you were at, you actually watched. You got the film Pentagon Jr.
Yeah, Pentagon was the best thing is he had a different name at each show, which was awesome.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's got variations on it, right?
There was him and Ray. Here's the funny thing on that. So I brought this up in conversation because arriving for by the time I got to the third show, which was House of Glory on Saturday afternoon, available on the Fight app.
There you go.
Was,
a lot of cheap plugs coming, folks.
Yeah, a lot of them. There was that was the first time I'd actually seen either Phoenix or Pentagon.
Okay.
In the backstage or anywhere. So I saw them getting out of the car, which looked like to be just like an Uber, which would have been hilarious if you had that Uber ride picked up those dudes. And because the car just took off and left. I don't know if they had a personal driver or what it was. I would in my brain to believe they had an Uber and they were just they had on all their gear and they had towels on over their head with their heads they're already ready to go with
I was just gonna say, please tell me that they're like Mil Mascaras and Mr.
Yeah,
Wrestling 2 and won't break kayfabe.
Absolutely.
Won't take the mask off in public.
I never saw them in the. So
that is so amazing.
They worked the Impact show was the first show that we worked with them. There was that show. There was the House of Glory show, and there was one other one, and it's slipping my mind right now. And I would be like, "Hey, why don't you remember us?" But it'll come. It'll come to me in a moment. And yeah, never once did they ever it's kind of weird that they never saw him in the backstage and where a lot of people were. It's kind of surreal like that.
Well, and it's so interesting too because this week it shines a spotlight on so many other promotions in a way that they don't really get the spotlight the rest of the year. It's the reflected glory essentially of WWE, but it's so interesting that you mentioned the Impact promotion because again, for so many years, run by Dixie Carter, and just it's so funny that when they were on what seems like a bigger scale, because even when they were on crappy TV networks, at least they were on networks that a fairly decent amount of people could get. And for a while, they were on things like Spike. I remember at that point, they were just so irritating. It's like, just die already, just go away. Your women's champion has to quit because she's embarrassed. She works at Sunglass Hut that you don't pay her enough money to live off of. In those days, it's like they were just so irritating. And now they've just morphed into a standard issue indie promotion. And now it's like they're not only non-offensive in that way, they're actually fairly decent, So it's funny, they just morph. Now they're like everybody else.
It was really cool how the setup or what they were doing, the idea behind it of the show was the United We Stand, and they were having all these different, me being a self-professed Lucha Underground fan, it was really cool to see hanging out and have the opportunity to meet Marty the Moth and who was it, Aerostar and Daga. I did get to see one of them without their mask on, and surprise, it's a Mexican guy that you wouldn't recognize if he didn't have his costume on.
Interesting. Okay.
It's just he's just some guy. He can walk into the store. I guess that's the advantage and beauty of it. But yeah, that was kind of cool.
What's so funny too isn't the theme of their show. I think that's sort of central to what I'm talking about because back in the day, TNA wouldn't even let their workers work for ROH. They were so selfish about stuff. Now they're just like an indie promotion like anybody else, and they're kind of cool actually.
And that's the kind of cool thing right now that's going on. And I kind of figured because again, there was so many people that were working so many shows. You go to one show, for example, the first show we did, the Destiny Wrestling show, Gangrel was there, and then he wrestled in some 6-way scramble. There's so many 6-way scramble bamble matches that were on the shows just because they were. And so we were at that show, and then I'd see him later on at the Blackcraft Wrestling show, and it's just like, hey, he's like, hey, it's like, what has happened to my life? All of a sudden, I'm now friends with a vampire, and it's cool. I mean, it's really cool, and It's just one of those like surreal things you don't really there's so many people that are like so many like literally going from place to place to spot to spot to spot. I was telling you before, like the Great Muta, like I didn't even like he wrestled his match at the House of Glory show, did his meet and greet beforehand, walked out of the curtain, got out of the ring, won his match, got into a waiting car, and went down and went and did the ROH and New Japan show later on that night. There's just so much happening. The first show, like out of nowhere, here's British Strong Style. That was on a Thursday afternoon. It's just the amount of, and I guess even last year, because this year was spread out. Last year was even more insane because it was down in New Orleans, so everybody was like right there.
Sure, and it's one of these things too, where when you look at it, I'm curious to know from your perspective how much the industry has changed since this point last year from having been there, because
I wasn't there last year.
No. I'm going to describe. Yeah, I know you weren't.
Oh, okay, wait a minute.
I'm going to describe the landscape versus what it is now, because I felt like a year ago, and I think you probably felt, a lot of us felt like we were moving towards that ideal back in the day of Pro Wrestling USA, of anybody who's not under the WWE banner. It's like they're all working together. They're all in a melting pot, and we sort of saw that a little bit more at All In, because that was sort of the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Having said that, the people behind All In were like, we can go make our own promotion now. So now that there's an AEW in the mix, does it feel less like everybody who's not under the WWE banner is sort of in it together? Or I know AEW has said that some of their guys are still going to be free to work other places. Is AEW casting a shadow, in other words, over this whole unity thing?
Yes and no.
Okay.
AEW is one of those things where like there were so many people that I saw walking around that were sporting and representing AEW.
Okay.
And from what I understand it, and just from what I've read and what I've heard, and just hearing people talking, is that like AEW sounds on paper like a really great idea.
Right.
And especially as like, more and more things get out there and expose, like the John Oliver piece on HBO. He talked about the WWE and brought up a valid point that every wrestling fan knew not everyone, people like us knew forever. It's like, how do you still get away with this? Is shocking.
Right.
I've said this for the longest time. We've had these conversations.
Exploitation.
With everything that's going on, and like, hashtag Me Too movements and everything and stuff like that. They better pray no one ever shines a spotlight on wrestling.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to have the Jerry McDevitt sick him on people.
Well,
We had nothing to do with that, but unfortunately, if you are the face of stuff like that, where it's like there's a certain culture and a certain thing that is more and more. I think a lot of times people are just like afraid to speak out because you didn't really have another option, no other place to go. And now the benefit of all these places working together is that you can have a place to go. And I mean, it was just crazy because I didn't know any of the cards ahead of time, so just to see who's gonna come out and wrestle a match, who's next, and you're just like, oh, you're here, this guy, we had this one show we did. We weren't even filming that show. We were waiting for the next show to happen. And it was an IPW UK show. And all of a sudden, James Storm is in their main event. We're like, what the? All right, that's interesting. It's like,
a lot of fever dream booking.
So many, it's just it's anybody who, if you were a wrestler that was good. Yeah. Other than the Bucks and all those, and I was half expecting to see them show up too, but they didn't. Right. If you're a wrestler that's and you were working this weekend, it was just surreal.
Well, not only that, I mean, and to the extent that tape trading still exists, because I don't exactly. I've never.
Tape trading has actually been surpassed by it's all come to you now. You don't have to wait. Send some money out in the mail and wait for some guy to send you a VHS tape that you could copy with your other VCR. You can just check it out on the Fight app.
The Fight
app,
available now. I didn't realize I was throwing in a lob for the alley-oop, but okay. Whatever form it takes, Jake, but I'm very happy that we can work that in yet again. So my point being that it's
talk about Rascal's Pizza.
Yeah, we can do that as well. That it's one of these things, what's cool to me is that if you're in that upper echelon of wrestlers working outside of WWE, that it's a thing where there's always like as the fans, we always want to have a thing of it's always like dream matches and everything like that. And it would seem like in this day and age, like every match that should happen is going to happen somewhere. You know, I'd like to see this guy and this guy. And then chances are you're going to get that.
Then you're going to get that.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
Here's the other thing too that has changed a lot that I've noticed from my the cost to go to a show. It's like $25.
Yeah.
It's the same price as it is for like an MMA show. Yeah. And I remember like when we were doing like NAVs and stuff back in the day, and even as recent with RFO, it's like the thought of like, you know, the pro wrestling show is always like, you know, $10, $15. But again, you pay $10, $15, you're gonna, and no offense to all the little local guys,
right,
but that's what you're gonna get.
Right.
Then, you know, if you're getting a name on a card, like a name value, I'm not quite sure what the ticket price was for, but I'm pretty sure, you know, fans probably would have paid up to like, you know, $40 to $50 to see the Great Muta wrestle, because when are you going to get another chance to see the Great Muta wrestle at such a small setting like the NYC Arena is?
Right. Which that's a thing where we talk about this a little bit off air, that as I was following your stuff on Facebook, it was like, you know, Jake Digman is at the NYC Arena. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a cool thing. I've never heard of it before. I'm trying to look it up online, and it's like, it's some kind of spot in Queens, but it barely exists on the internet.
The NYC Arena is in between. It is like on a block in Queens, and it is a clever gimmick, because I'm pretty sure the other 6 nights of the week it is either a dance club, a concert venue, a gentleman's establishment. I'm really not quite sure. It had 2 big bars on like not bars, but like, you know, alcohol bars on either side that you need
Let's
to go.
give it up for Amber on the main stage.
And then you've got like, you know, these, and it could be, but you know what though, it is what it is. I mean, it looked like it was kind of a club. It's a club atmosphere.
Yeah.
So we can definitely tell a lot of partying's going on in that place, but it's I mean, it's New York, man. You know, and the funny thing, that's not even the weirdest venue that we filmed in that weekend.
Okay.
Probably one of the best ones was, I don't know, the weirdest one was the Uncanny Attractions Drags and Dropkicks, which took place inside of what I do believe was a gay nightclub over in Brooklyn, and it was fantastic. In the middle of the show, just think of like a 7-foot tall Lady Gaga coming down to do a drag show in the middle of this, and they come down, and you can watch this on Fight too. She comes down, and she's singing all these, lip syncing all these songs, and she's got these 2 balls that are like lit up, and they're like swirling within an inch of her nose, and I'm just like, I'm filming this going like, what is happening with my life right now? And there's a whole story of the fact that we even got that show set up, because we had to go from,
when you say balls,
like little balls, like orbs. Okay. Orbs.
All right.
Is that better?
I'm glad you clarified, because I didn't know where you were going with
spheres.
That. Okay.
Lit up spheres.
Okay. None of them have hair on.
Cylinders.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, the fact that we even got to that show was insane, because we had to go from the NYC Arena in Queens and get over to this other spot in Brooklyn that we hadn't been to. The first show, the House of Glory show, went long.
Okay.
And by the time we got out of there, you know, I mean, there was, it was a good, solid crowd there, maybe 800 fans or so. So by the time we got that done and all the camera equipment and everything, you know, taken down, it was like 6:10.
Okay.
And we had to go live at 7 in Brooklyn, and somehow by 7:10 we were on the air.
Would it be a permissible joke?
Big props to Mike Moran on that.
Well, yeah, it sounds like a lot of hustle. Would it be a permissible joke to say at that type of venue sounds like they host a House of Glory whole show?
You know, I mean, I don't know. I can't. I didn't see enough of. They had a bunch of cages hanging from the ceiling though that went up and down. That's how.
I don't want to know. Yeah.
And I was like, that's
questions.
interesting. So, but the funny thing is, on this bit that happened was hilarious. So they come, like, you know, they're doing this performance, right? And all of a sudden this guy comes out and he cuts everything off, and their number one heel is a Trump supporter, and it was hilarious. And he came out there in the name of our good president, Donald J. Trump, and like all of these stupid liberals, and it was absolutely hysterical, because again, you got to know your audience. And
a mirror image of the commie guy working the gimmick in Appalachia.
Something like that, yeah. So, and then, of course, who comes out as the savior of the LBGT community? None other than Sunny Kiss, a.k.a. Exolicious on Lucha Underground. And I got a picture taken. It was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Fantastic. And you know what? Also, another thing, too, is seriously good for them.
Yeah.
Because... I found out on that show there was, again, it's WrestleMania weekend. There's something for everybody. There's this. There's Joey Ryan's penis party. That got people. That is now a meme going around. We didn't film that show, but we heard all about it.
Okay.
There's now a meme that's going around with some stuff that happened on that show. But on this show, there was it was, I think, every performer except for one was gay.
Okay.
And it's like, there was a point in time is gay. There was a point in time where you wouldn't discuss that in wrestling. That was just not a thing. It was
They had
just
any
like
matches where Pat Patterson was special referee?
no, but I bet it would have been really cool if he would have been there. They would have been probably welcomed with open arms, and you know, it was just a fun wrestling show.
Uh-huh.
It didn't take itself seriously at all. I mean, at all, and it was just like
I wouldn't think that a gay wrestling show would. I would
you
think it
know,
would be very campy.
And again, it's very campy,
Yes.
and that's the thing. There was such a variety of shows. It's funny, I look back on it, and I'm like, how did we go, from, going from the Blackcraft wrestling show where they crucified a guy, that happened. Like, he
As a
legitimately...
good Roman Catholic boy, that doesn't sound like my scene.
Oh, yeah, and the preacher, who was their leader of the group, I got my picture taken with the legendary Doug Bradley, who you would know better as Pinhead from Hellraiser. He was playing the role of their leader, and this show is also available on...
Tell me they got James Mitchell working for them. That's a guy that's going to
You'd
fit
think,
right in.
yeah, he would fit. He was not there, but he would
Really?
fit right in
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they crucified a guy. I met him, I mean, not to break kayfabe, but I met the guy after the show. The cross
Okay.
he was crucified on is his.
Okay.
He is a circus sideshow freak performer, body manipulation, I guess, how they changed how they're supposed to. He's one of those guys. And,
Okay.
yeah, the thrill of a lifetime. And the guy came out there in the first match. First guys with the first match come out, and there's a dude like the entranceway is a dude being crucified. It's like, well, if your goal is to get people talking, that might do it.
Well, at least WrestleMania never happens during Holy Week, so at least there's that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's just
Small
one of those,
blessings.
yeah, it's one of those,
You take 'em where you can find 'em.
It's one of those things where everyone's trying to do whatever they can to draw whatever sort of attention they can get to try to stand out, to be something, and to go from that to the thing later on. And then we also had the Stardom Wrestling show, which, oh my god, I highly recommend that. Anybody who's a wrestling fan, they're the Japanese women's promotion. Best show of the weekend, hands down.
Interesting.
Hands down.
Okay.
The way they use like psychology and everything about it was just, and the way that they arrived at the venue. They showed up to the venue on a bus, and it was like definitely Japanese precision. Like every performer walked in, like from the champion down to whomever. They all walked in. They set up chairs. They got the whole venue set up. They all signed autographs that were put on the first 4 rows. They did all their matches, and the best part is before the show started, we were still waiting for the. We were there for the, I think that was when the IPW UK show was. It was. That's when that show was still going on. Was before that. We were still watching that. And I met Session Moth Martina, who is, I guess, a pretty big name now in the Indies. Talking beforehand, and like, oh, she's in the match. And I was like, she's asking about that. And like, her whole gimmick is she's a party girl, and she fit right in. She even came out holding the Budweiser and came out with like these traditional, like, it is like traditional dance. It is beautiful. Like the whole thing, the whole show, the only word I can use to describe it is beautiful. And they stayed after the show and signed autographs and took pictures until each and every fan had left the building.
Interesting.
And I thought that was very, very cool.
That's so professional of them, yeah.
Absolutely. Their American correspondence was from Akron. That was kind of cool. It was like, hey, yeah. I'm like, wow, I met a lot of Ohio that went on this weekend. A lot of... So, OVE, apparently beyond Sami Callihan, who I also did 2 of his matches.
Okay.
So, Sami Callihan is fantastic. Like, he gets the love he deserves, but at the same time, I can't put him over enough. Just like how much that dude was like bust his butt out there.
And again, you didn't have to take a bad shot to the head from him.
Yeah, but you know what? I saw them pass each other, and they didn't really, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to either, Sammy, so don't come find me.
Yeah.
But the best part, one of the best heels of the whole weekend was Ohio. because OVE's on all these different shows. So like at least 4 different shows we were at, they're chanting "Ohio sucks," and we're just laughing at the headsets with each other, like
they have no idea.
No
it's
idea.
Ohio people.
It's all Ohio people. We're like, that's pretty funny. So like all the crowd's like, "Ohio sucks," and which to go backwards because I'm going all over the place because I don't know, my brain swelled down for a minute there.
The notion of Ohio having heat in NYC is just
So
weird to
great.
me.
So at one point,
Boston, I could see. LA, I could see. Philly, I could see. Ohio,
yeah. At the very first, we're setting up for the first day of the Fight Fest All Access or Fight Free for All Day, I believe is what it's called. We're sitting in there, and you walk in, and it was Stryker and Matt Stryker and Cyrus and everybody were just like, hi, how are you? Blah blah blah. That was actually the first time Cyrus and I had actually ever met in person. We've been Facebook friends for years in a ring announcer group and everything. So at one point, Josh Matthews comes in and he's sitting down and he's talking about, Stryker says something about like, oh, you at least you're at home. And he's like, I don't live here. I don't live here. I live in Columbus, Ohio now. And Matt Stryker looks and he goes, Columbus? Oh, it's terrible. He goes, well, at least it's not as terrible as living someplace like Akron, Ohio. And he looks at all of us, knowing full well that I'm from Akron and that Mike, the one guy from Fights, lives in Akron. So we're like, that's pretty funny. Way to heel on me there, buddy. I like that. So that gave me a good chuckle. I was like, and then going through the rest of the shows, all the and then all the way into WrestleMania actually, because in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the one guy from Saturday Night Live came out wearing an Ohio Odell Beckham Cleveland Browns jersey. Yeah. So the theme went through the whole weekend. I just wish Johnny Gargano was a heel, and then it would have been perfect.
It would have fit in, yeah. And you said to me off air about how the word was all around NYC on Friday night when he won the NXT Championship at TakeOver. We'll talk a little bit about that later. I know you haven't gotten a chance to catch it yet. I did. I loved it. You got a lot to look forward to because it may be the greatest TakeOver show. We'll talk about that a little bit later. One of the things I wanted to talk about as well, too, since we talked about TNA/Impact and the way that their image has kind of changed over the years, what has sort of gone the other way in my estimation, ironically, it's sort of the peak moment in the history of the promotion. ROH combining with New Japan to do the Madison Square Garden show. But it's a thing where they used to be, like, it was so funny 10 years ago when The Wrestler came out. When it was like, Randy the Ram Robinson wrestling for ROH. It was like one of these in-jokes that if you were a wrestling fan, like, yeah, right, like an 80s relic would ever be in ROH. Because I remember at the time, I think I said on air, like, Jerry Lynn did a gimmick as far as, like, being washed up there. Like, one of the greatest technical wrestlers until the day he quit wrestling.
Didn't he win the world title during that run?
I think he might have.
Yeah, I think he'd won the ROH world title.
And it was like, they're doing a gimmick where somebody as technically magnificent as Jerry Lynn is doing a washed-up gimmick. So, yeah, right, like they would ever do that. Cut to 2019, where all of a sudden ROH decides that they're not too high and mighty to do business with Enzo and Cass. And ironically, I'm not going to crap at Cass, even though he's a generic big man at this stage of his career. Enzo, with his whole shtick and everything like that, you talk about. Now, again, it's going to draw heat. Anything that goes against the core of a promotion. But we've come a long way since the handshakes after the matches in 2002, Jake Digman.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything has to evolve and change. And I mean, if you were going to do that a bit, I guess the perfect place to do it would be in New York because that's where you're going to get the most positive reaction for it. And, I mean, it is what it is. I didn't see it. I didn't watch it.
I didn't either.
I saw, like, clips of it later on. But, it was... it's what it is. I mean, it's just interesting to see. Would you ever thought, with 2002, even 2006, that ROH would be running a sold-out Madison Square Garden? That's a mind-boggling thing in of itself.
Kind of an asterisk on it, though, in that, again, co-promoted with New Japan. We always knew that New Japan would have the potential to be at a high level here. And here's the interesting thing of it as well. Shout out to my old bowling buddy, Ted Riegling, who is a lapsed wrestling fan who's just Hey, Ted. Who's just kind of gotten back in over the last year or so. And he ended up watching it, I guess, on Fight Network on Saturday night, the MSG show. And he was just kind of shaking his head because he'd sort of gotten back into it because of the Elite, and everything. He's like, wow, this new de-elited ROH, you know? Like,
yeah, that's the other thing, too, that is not really... When everyone bought those tickets, the elite was still there.
Yes, like, they got that. So when I say asterisk, this is not just me being a dick saying that.
Oh, it's true.
It's you built the promotion to the level it's at with the elite and with the co-promotion with New Japan.
Yeah.
So those are two pretty big asterisks.
Yeah, no,
and
I agree
the elite's
with you.
gone.
I'm not saying that ROH sold it out by themselves.
Right.
I was just
But
saying.
even
I was just saying this the idea that like ROH that it was Ring of Honor is.
And
like,
you're right. You're right.
New Japan even
Yes,
even
because that's unimaginable that it would happen
in the Garden during WrestleMania week.
Yes.
Like what?
Well,
that's like okay.
Mostly on the business end,
changed.
as far as Vince, kind of dropping the ball on that of losing the exclusivity. But you're right. ROH had to rise up to a certain enough point.
And the other
now, are they ever going to do something like that again? Without the elite, probably not. But at least they'll be able to say they did it once.
I mean, the reasoning behind it makes sound logical sense from McMahon's point of view. The Garden just got too damn expensive. I mean, it's one of those things where it is. The Barclays Center cuts them a better deal. They have a better thing there, and as purist, you don't have to like it, but it is what it is. I mean, it's part of the fact. It's the union that works with the Garden, the way you have to do stuff. You're paying 3 times the amount of money, and it's a pain in the ass to get to. It's a pain in the butt to get anything into it. It's a pain in the butt to get anything out of it. The union, anybody who's ever performed the Garden, there's very similar like tales of this. And I get it. I'm not saying I like it. It just is.
Well, but here's the thing, though. It's the arrogance of, and as we talk about this era that we're sort of coming into now, of not exactly the return of the Monday Night Wars, but the closest we've seen to it. People like me have been guilty of using the inaccurate term monopoly over the last 18 years. It's never been a monopoly. What it has been a monopoly on is wrestling history, because if you want to use any footage, they bought up all the tape libraries, and it's that. So, and not exactly a monopoly. I trace the indie boom, in my mind, probably to when? About 2013, 2014, to when it started getting serious. I think, ironically, about the time of the WWE Network, when it became clear that streaming was a huge thing, and that you could bypass TV.
Streaming was really, really what made it like take off. Okay. It's one of those things. I agree with you on that. It's like, I mean, because now, like, you have access to all these different things, all these different promotions, available through Fight and all the other apps that are out there that you can download stuff, and it's just like, or YouTube for that matter. You can put stuff on YouTube and have like a case in point. You have your content.
Yeah,
there's easier ways to get content to people. And what makes it interesting now is the whole idea that WWE and their their deal with Fox, and all of a sudden, like, all the rumors that AEW is going to do with, like, perhaps TNT or TBS, which is just crazy. It's like, wait, what? It's crazy, but it's like, what's old is new again. You know, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. We haven't heard anything, but stuff's getting leaked out there, and it's like, well, that could make for an interesting ride of things, and they're going to have no shortage of talent, as I saw this weekend or this last weekend, of people that they can go to.
Oh yeah,
that could fill up a roster and make an absolutely amazing show, an amazing show that is a diverse show. That's the thing with wrestling. You need to have a diverse crowd. You can't all do the same thing for everybody, or else you.
Well, that's right.
You get
that's right. And you're tying into my point that I was about to make. Perfect anticipation on your part, because the whole thing about losing the exclusivity with MSG, that's the arrogance on their part of, again, they're not a monopoly, but they've been the next best thing to a monopoly for 18 years. Now it's a whole new world. Now it's going to be a competitive world again. You've got somebody out there that's going to be nipping at your heels, and you have to care again. You have to care about being perceived as being number one because somebody else is out there. I'm not saying AEW is going to run MSG, but they're going to have the highest profile show that anybody's had in 18 years. And I'll tell you this, you have the same absurdist sense of humor that I do, so follow me on this. I want AEW's first show, and by the way, what you alluded to, we can kind of probably believe that it's going to happen, because there have been rumors about TNT ever since the whole TV talk started here. So, but where it's coming out now is this new Warner Media. It's not Turner anymore. It's not Turner Sports, whatever. It's all Warner Media after the latest of these mega mergers. That their whole thing for the upfronts, and we cover the upfronts every year on this show. It's always a big deal in New York with the fall lineups and stuff. That's where it's leaking out. The executives are preparing to sell this new show, that's going to be on there. So this is going to be one of these things. Follow me on this. I want the first episode of, I think it's going to be Tuesday Night Dynamite. I want it to be from Panama City, Florida. I want them to do it down there. And I want them for the night to hire 2 ex-WCW wrestlers. Let's just say Sting and Lex Luger. They don't have to wrestle.
Well, they can't wrestle, so that's
exactly,
not going to really work for you.
Yeah. And by the way, shout out to Lex, who's been on the show a couple times. I love Lex to death. I'm not saying this.
Why can't they just use Jericho? He's already going to be there.
Well, they could, but I'm thinking specifically just people who are known as ex-WCW wrestlers who were there that night, and I want to cut to them backstage. I just want to have a backstage vignette. They said there was going to be a hiatus before there was the next show on TNT. I didn't think it would last that long. I just want that moment, Jake Digman.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. That's that would be something you would want.
Yes, that would be. Yes, I would pop for that. But I can't wait to see what they are going to do. But again, so we alluded to Cass and Enzo and the run-in at MSG. There were some marks out there that night that were saying that, what WWE did with the run-in on Bret Hart was just designed to take away attention from what ROH had planned with their own thing. Sadly, Bret Hart's thing, as anybody with a brain knows, was not a work. It was, unlike Montreal, some would say.
Do you know what's funny?
What?
Pro wrestling is the only industry, it's the only form of entertainment, sport, whatever the heck you want to call it, that the fans are so used to getting like it's not real that they create so many things in their head where it's like, I honestly believe, and especially after like this past week and just like seeing things, that fans' minds will go absolutely insanely crazy, and then be like, oh my god, this, like the Bret Hart thing, like somebody did, Vince paid someone to come out there, and then you like hear someone tell a story about Vince and goes, yeah, that's something insane that he might do.
Well, Bret's going to be the wrestler in the Guinness Book of World Records for most incidents that people consider to be a work. He probably can't count them on one hand anymore as far as the things that people doubt the veracity of.
I'm just like, why are you attacking, of all people, Bret the Hitman Hart? What was your reasoning behind this?
As numerous people pointed out, when Hulk Hogan was standing right there. But
yeah, right. You know? Oh, yeah. I mean, what was your reasoning behind that? But
obviously it wasn't a work. It was a thing where, and one wonders if it plays in. I think the way that they were going, towards the Raw Tag Team title change, anyways. But there were many people out there who thought that Dash Wilder might have bought a longer title reign by getting that shot in on him as he was being led away. I got to tell you, I have zero problem with that. And for any of the snowflakes out there on Twitter that were all pissed off about the man was defenseless, whatever, shouldn't have done it in the first place. It's much like, remember when we had the epidemic in baseball of people running on the field and attacking players, and then players realized, wait a minute, we have bats and balls and spikes. And as soon as they started using them, run-ins stopped. That kind of thing. What happened to him needs to be an example so it never happens to anybody else ever again.
I just go with the old school mentality. That is what happens.
Yeah.
If you do that, that's what happens to you. You jump in the ring, you get the crap eaten out of you.
Yeah.
You're not going to be like, oh my god, I ran in there to jump a 60-year-old man from behind and like, screw that.
Well, I mean, I don't mean to be that guy, but I guess I'm going to be that guy. By gum, if this was 1974 at the Greensboro Coliseum, he'd have been thrown in a room backstage with the Anderson brothers and stretched to within an inch of his life.
Thank you, Mr. Cornette.
I wasn't sure who I was imitating there, but
well, your voice is a little. You could have been him or Ole, but
shout out to another frequent guest on the show. We've had JC a few times.
I listen to his podcast every week. It is fantastic. When I went to Louisville, I tweeted him, asked him where to eat. He sent me a whole list of restaurants to go to. Because anybody would know Louisville food, it'd be Jim Cornette.
He's an interesting guy.
As we bring the show to a close, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, all Clear Channel affiliates, TNT, TBS, USA, UPN, Deadspin.com, YouTube.com, YTMND.com, MySpace.com, various blogs, Fox News, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, IamBoard.com, Billboard.com, Google.com, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Classic, NBA TV, NFL Network, Sports Time Ohio, Athlon Magazine, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, The Boomerang Channel, QVC, BET, The Spice Channel,
Channel, steno notebooks, manwich, paper-made office supplies, waitresses, strippers, bartenders, garbage men, janitors, microwave popcorn. The writers of The Office, Scrubs, Entourage, My Name is Earl, Oz, Metalocalypse and the Boondocks, Aquafina, and the periodic table of elements.